everyone believing in the message and having, more importantly than believing it, having a sense of ownership, right? And so when I look at that in our organization, we are a cornucopia of different cultures, different ethnicities, different genders, different lifestyles. And that's what's great about our brand, is that we have that. And so we're also very socially conscious. We think about LGBTQ movement, racial injustices. We think about wellness with, this month with breast cancer and all those type of things. All these causes that we're a part of as a brand, everyone has a connection to one of them.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Having brand evangelizers inside your company and outside your company can be one of the key things to you continuing the growth that you desire for your company. When you think about brand evangelizers, do you have people that are out there sharing the message, maybe even finding other talent that want to join the mission with you? These brand evangelizers are not just your top employees, but they can be all of your employees. They can love what they're doing so much. They could love being a part and the feeling of belonging, that when they actually think about their work, they want others to join along with them. These brand evangelizers can help you sell more products or services. They can help you connect to the right people, create more partnerships. All of the benefits behind these brand evangelizers are available to you if you know how to leverage them as a leader. Today, we have the founder of Rastaclat. He is Daniel Kasidi. Daniel is really a powerful leader. He's got 10 years of experience, but really some of the things he's coming up with really speaks to decades of leadership skills and capabilities. When we talk about some of the keys to him understanding employees and creating those brand evangelizers, I really saw how much he cares for people. He cares for the brand he's creating. He cares for all of the stuff that's going on in the business. Now, when we share that today on this interview, hopefully you'll take notes. You'll see some value in this. And before we get into the interview, if you are a leader who's going from founder to CEO, make sure you check out the free resources on my website, genehammett.com. If you want to continue the journey you have as a leader, be more visionary, be more strategic, then all you have to do is go sign up for those things right now. They're absolutely free, and they're specifically for founders, CEOs of fast growth companies. Now here's the interview with Daniel. Daniel, how are you?
Doing great, Gene. How are you today?
Fantastic. Excited to have you here on Grow Think Tank to talk about leadership and culture in a fast growth company. You've had the chance to create a team, grow this company fast. Tell us about Rastaclat.
Yeah, Rastaclat is a company that I founded about 10 years ago. We're in the accessory space, primarily focusing on bracelets. Our company is distributed all around the world, over 228 countries. We've put about 10 million bracelets on people's wrists since the inception of the brand. And what's really special about the brand is our brand message, which is seek the positive. It's something that was a part of our why since the very beginning. And we are a consumer product company, but really our goal is to inspire people to have a specific mindset and do good for themselves and others every single day. So it's not just about selling product, but it's also about doing good. And another piece of that, we have a foundation that's tied with our brand Rastaclat, the Seek the Positive Foundation, which we donate 1% of all net proceeds to causes like equality and personal development and things of that nature. So we're based in Long Beach, California, about 35 employees. And it's been a wild ride, and we're excited to keep going.
Well, thanks for coming here. I love this Seek the Positive. A lot of companies have a mission or a purpose behind this. You called it your why. How did you come up with Seek the Positive?
Yeah, so when I came up with the brand, I was always a creative, right? And I took an extra pair of shoelaces and made a bracelet for myself. And the interesting moment is when I gave that bracelet to someone. There was such an emotion, exchange of an emotion of positivity. Someone was either uplifted by confidence, or some other people were just inspired by the creativity. And I recognized this sort of esoteric exchange, and it was positivity. That's how I could bottle it up. And so when I started the brand, we said, what is the call to action going to be for this brand? How are we going to inspire people to evoke action? And so the tagline, or if you will, the way of life of Seek the Positive was born. And so that's what we put on all of our marketing content, and that's what we talk about a lot of times in our marketing.
So before we cut on the recorder here today, you said something and I wrote it down. Nothing is scalable unless others are telling the story. And you have not only you telling the story out there, but what you believe, and the reason why your company's grown so fast is you have others telling the story, like employees, your partners, your customers. Today, we want to focus on how do you get your employees to tell the story, and why is that so important?
Oh, it's very, very important. Like I said earlier, you want your brand or your business to scale. You can't be the only person telling that story. You can't be the only person that's ownership of the culture. When I talk about culture is a cumulative of what everyone in the organization does when nobody else is looking, right? So the question to ask yourself is, my staff telling the brand story? Are they passionate about it? When they're not even in the office, and so that's really, really important. And so that's something that we've focused on and we've done it in different ways. I think one of the ways that we look at is, how do we hire, right? Everyone has a great skill set. People come to the table with the skill set, but what I usually ask myself is, what's not on the resume that you're bringing to this culture here at Rastaclat, right? And if our message is Seek the Positive, then what's their personality? What are they doing outside of work to empower other people and to continue to grow their communities? So these are some of the things that we really look for when we bring people in. It's not just their skill set, but it's also a little bit about what their life vision and mission is, and making sure that we're aligned in that sense. And that really helps drive forward the culture. And it's not forced. It's very authentic in that sense.
Before we go any further, I want to talk about this hiring process that you have, finding those elements that are not on the resume. I've had many other founders say that this is a very important piece to really connecting to who they are. Is there any specific strategies or questions you do or a part of the process that lets you find out who they are beyond that resume?
Yeah, so in our hiring process, we have a kind of an extensive one. We do have people meet, not necessarily just with myself. I'm usually the last person to interview. A lot of the team members will kind of interview for skill set and all those different things. And when I come in, a lot of times I'm asking, what do you do? What do you do on your spare time for your community? When's the last time you did something for someone else, right? Or what are the nonprofits and things that you're passionate about? What impact do you want to have and leave into the world? So I'll tend to ask questions that are a little bit more, not necessarily personal, but give me a really good sense of the person and what their purpose is, right? It's what I'm trying to identify as, what's your purpose, and how do you take your skill sets and infuse your purpose into it, and how do you sort of build that together? And so those are just some of the questions that I ask. And when I feel like we have someone that's really exuding passion, righteousness, integrity, discovery, and excellence, that's when we bring someone in. And that's the way that we do it. And our goal is to retain our staff and our employees. We don't want people that want to come and work at Rastaclat for a year or two. We want people that want to dedicate at least 5 years to this brand and this company. So that's really important for us to get into some of those areas.
One more thing here, if you happen to be listening to this on your iPhone or maybe on the website, you may not know about the YouTube channel we have. If you want to check out some of the content we have over there on YouTube that we don't put anywhere else, just go to genehammett.com/YouTube. Inside that, you will be able to see some of the details about you being a strategic leader, being more visionary, and really taking your business to the next level. Go to YouTube right now by going to genehammett.com/YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and get everything you need to become the leader that you really want to be. I'm not surprised anymore when I talk to fast growth companies. They have extremely high retention rate, meaning they don't lose many people at all. We know that it's much easier to create a company where you get momentum if you're not having to replace people over and over, right?
Oh my goodness.
But you take this a step further by getting your people what you call to be evangelizers. So what is that evangelizer, and what would it look like inside your organization?
Yeah, in terms of evangelizers, is just everyone believing in the message and having, more importantly than believing it, having a sense of ownership, right? And so when I look at that in our organization, we are a cornucopia of different cultures, different ethnicities, different genders, different lifestyles. And that's what's great about our brand, is that we have that. And so we're also very socially conscious. We think about LGBTQ movement, racial injustices. We think about wellness with, this month with breast cancer and all those type of things. All these causes that we're a part of as a brand, everyone has a connection to one of them. Maybe someone's grandmother had breast cancer, or maybe someone in our team is part of the LGBTQ community. And so people are out there and they're evangelizing what we're doing as a brand to further humanity, right? And so because there's a connection to our staff with the things that we do as a brand authentically, they're constantly going out there and talking to their families, their friends, wearing our product, talking about the story, talking about our why, our message. And that's them being evangelizers. They really believe in it. And everything that they do on a day-to-day basis helps push forward not only the company's initiatives, but their initiatives. And that's what really makes it powerful. And again, it's that sense of ownership, because if people have that sense of ownership and belonging, then they feel like it's theirs too, and it is, and they're able to take that with them everywhere they go.
So Daniel, you keep saying ownership. I've got to put a spotlight on that for a second. You probably know that my work is around how do you inspire people to feel like owners, even when they don't have a financial stake. And you're describing a big piece of this, which is they feel so connected in a sense of belonging, and they're on this mission with you.
Yeah.
But there's many other elements behind it. I could tell you my research, but what do you think some of the key elements of people feeling that sense of ownership are?
I think the main one for me, has been buy-in, right? And we always say it a lot of times. I sparked the vision as the founder, but the company is really the fire, right? Like I was a spark. And so it's really just getting buy-in and having people strategize your business strategy with you, and making sure that they have a sense of ownership. Because to be quite honest with you, the Rastaclat strategy isn't my strategy, it's our strategy. It's not my vision, it's our vision. And so when you take that approach in strategic planning, as we're planning 2021 right now, I probably do the least amount of talking in strategy sessions. I do the most amount of listening, and I let the team really talk about where they see the company going in the lens and in the specialty that they have. And that just creates a lot of buy-in. And then when people have a task or a KPI that they need to hit, they feel like it's theirs. It's not Daniel saying, "Hey, hit this KPI." It's saying, "Hey, I came up with this KPI. This is something that I'm passionate about. I put it on paper. I'm gonna go hit it." And so I think that's been the biggest eye opener for me. And it hasn't always been that way. There was times when I was a younger CEO where I would come to the strategy meeting with a 20-page, 30-page strategy and say, "Hey, go do it." And people would do it, but it would be harder to get through it. There'd be less passion. And I don't want to say it would be begrudgingly, but it would be harder to get people to execute on it because they weren't as passionate about them being a part of that solution. So buy-in is my answer there.
Now hold on for a second. Daniel talked about the need to create buy-in. I had a client once say to me in a meeting, how do I get my employees to buy in at a deeper level? Well, you can blame them for not buying in, but here's the key thing you want to understand. You've got to create the kind of belonging and the commitment where people have buy-in, that they can't live without what you're doing. And this experience you give them at work is a part of their own growth and transformation. If you think about some of those details, you will have buy-in beyond just the paycheck. You'll have that sense of ownership that really is necessary to create the kind of scalable brand that you want. Now back to the interview with Daniel. I love that. You said a word, I want to make sure that we don't let it skip by, but inclusion. You've got about 35 employees, and you walked us through like this strategy meeting that you're no longer having to come with all of the research and all of the plans and all of the ideas yourself. They're actually coming in probably more prepared because they know that they've got buy-in and that it's their company and their strategy. When you have made that transition, because this is not an easy transition for a lot of founders to do, what are some of the things you struggled with, or what are some of the mistakes you made in letting go of that work so that they could take that buy-in?
It's the struggles are definitely real in that aspect. I think when you're a founder, let's say you're the initial founder of the company, like how I was, everything relying on you. You're doing everything based on your own gut feelings. You don't have anyone that you need to sort of like sell on your vision, and you're just going after it. And you find success in the earlier days doing that, right? I think what I struggled with is once we started building teams is taking that same approach, and sort of being the driver, versus, like I said, getting a little bit more of the team's input. And what I realized, it's not necessarily a tactical thing that you have to focus on. It's kind of the soft skills of we talk about, letting go of the ego, right? And now understanding that you don't have all the best ideas, and you have your role is really to own that high level vision of where we see ourselves in the next 5 to 10 years. And you're no longer really responsible for the how, right? You're responsible for the why and the direction that we're going. And so a lot of that for me personally had to do with shedding the ego, saying that, you know what, shut up during this meeting and let other people talk, and really just delegating and giving a little bit more of that power to the staff. And that's not an easy thing to do. It took me a couple years to get really good at it. And now I'm able to sit comfortably in understanding that I do still control the vision and the direction of the company, but the how is not necessarily for me to own.
I'm kind of curious. I know you mentioned in our research that you have hired executive coaches before. Were they, helpful in that journey that you have taken to go from founder to the CEO you are today?
Oh my gosh, it's been life-changing, game-changing for my business and for my journey as a leader. One of the things that executive coaches really made me realize is exactly that. Where I need to be focused on, how to prioritize what I focus on. Making sure that I got to a point from a founder where you're wearing a ton of hats to now really like a more mature business, and what I need to focus on, which is really 3 to 5 things every single day. And I couldn't have done it without coaching, because you don't have that perspective, right? And you're always trying to do more, and sometimes doing more isn't necessarily going to render the best results. It's about focusing in a little bit more on the things that only you can do in that organization. And executive coaching definitely helped me with that. I definitely recommend it to anyone.
Now, hold on. Daniel just talked about going from founder to CEO. This is a struggle I hear a lot of people that have created a business, their heart and soul, their baby, if you will, and they want to hold on to everything. They've worn every hat in the business, but as they begin to add new employees, they want to make sure that they let go of this. One of the key concepts behind this is learning to fire yourself. Yep, I said it. When you learn to let go and fire yourself from certain projects, certain meetings, certain metrics that you're responsible for or have ownership to, and let others step up, and you coach them to step up, that's the key to you scaling your business. This has happened to a number of my clients, and you really want to make sure that you are getting this kind of founder to CEO, being very intentional about how you're evolving as a leader. Now, back to the interview with Daniel. So full disclaimer, Daniel, I wasn't your coach, or else I would have said it blatantly, because it's such a glowing, really review of what that experience was for you. And it's not always easy. So thanks for sharing a little bit of that.
Yeah.
We got here because we were talking about employees and them sharing the message. Is there anything that you do specifically that you could, give us behind the scenes look at, this is how we get them to be the brand evangelizers of the culture and sharing that message? Are you having certain types of meetings or doing certain things consistently that make that possible?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is lowering the barrier of safety for people to be themselves and express themselves. Nowadays we're in a digital workplace. I think just making sure that your staff feels safe to express themselves, right? If you want them to have ownership in the culture and the vision, they've got to feel heard. And so for us, we have Slack, we share ideas, we share life experiences, different things of that nature. We're a very family oriented type of company. But when things go wrong, right, and when times get hard, we have the really, really hard conversations with each other and open up a platform. Whether in this year it was COVID, dealing with that, social justice issues, dealing with that, kids going back to school digitally while parents are at home trying to working, having real conversations about those things, the elections coming up, having not political conversations, but how these things affect them personally, and really having that empathy and understanding. And I think once you do things like that and you open up that dialogue, people feel belonging. They feel that the company actually cares about their well-being and not just about the bottom line. And so those are things that we do, and we're just very aware of, that we do on a normal basis. So that's number one. Number two is really making sure that everyone understands that, we're here to do something bigger than ourselves. So once a quarter, we get out of the office, and nowadays it's not necessarily getting out of the office, but we do an event where we ask our staff to take a day out of their 3 months, take a day off, and go do something good for the community, whether it's picking up trash at the beach, or feeding homeless, or whatever that it is that they're passionate about, making sure that they stay connected to that. And so, for instance, this year, we've seen that with COVID, there's been a lot more domestic violence in the homes, a lot more substance abuse. We're partnered with a foundation called It Gets Better, and I support the girls, and basically, getting feminine products to the women that have been abused, or whatever the case may be. And that's what we're doing this next month. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have a drive. We're going to do that. That gives people a sense of belonging and a sense of higher meaning. So those are just some things that we can do. I have a long list of other things that we do, but those are just some of the ones that come off the top of my mind that we do to make sure that everyone's engaged.
A lot of the things that you've shared with us today really are powerful leadership skills that many people forget, because most people think that leadership is getting the job done. I had a virtual speech today. I finished it up, and there was a Q&A session, and one of the employees, or one of the people on the speech, said, how do you be a good boss and be a good leader? And it's not the easiest question. I'd ask him to explain what is a good boss, or what is a boss specifically, because I have this better idea of leadership. Yeah. When you think about your balance of time and energy and the actual work that's getting done, and the actual developing of employees, the community engagement stuff that you're doing, how do you see the balance of those two sides of your business?
Yeah, I mean, there's the work, like you said, and then there's the coaching and leadership, as you said. And leadership comes first, right? Because you really need to develop your team. You need to inspire your team. You need to motivate your team, or you'll never get to do your job, right? Because if your team is not autonomous, you can't actually get to doing the X's and O's of your job. And so I focus a lot of my efforts on the leadership side. Just as you coach CEOs, I'm constantly coaching my direct reports, right? Through leadership issues, through personal issues, everything of that nature. And that's my number one. And I think when they feel as you develop them, the more that you're able to delegate, and the more that you're able to do what you're really, really great at. So if you were to ask me, definitely leadership comes first. I definitely try to keep a 50-50 as much about us in regards to how much time I spend on both. I'd say it's pretty equal, that I spend as much time in leadership as actually doing my job and doing podcasts and different things like this. So it's a pretty good balance, and it's a big focus.
I appreciate you sharing that behind the scenes look of all of your leadership strategies and what you're doing. I know there's a lot more that we could talk about, but we've run out of time. Daniel, thanks for being here and sharing your wisdom, and thanks for what you do with Rastaclat. It really is something I'm proud to be able to share with my audience.
Thank you so much for having me, and the amazing questions. I hope everyone out there got some great nuggets and gems from it. And if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me. I'm at Daniel Kasidi. Find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or anything of that nature. Would love to talk with you guys.
That wraps up today's episode with this founder about growth. It's not just about getting the work done. It's about creating a place where people feel safe, feel a sense of belonging, and coaching them along the way. If you feel like you'd like to upgrade your leadership skills, take your visionary and strategy to the next level, and grow your company even faster, all at the same time, make sure you reach out. Check out the free resources at genehammett.com. When you think about growth and you think about leadership, think about Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.